Welcome to the All of Life podcast, where we explore how Oklahoma Baptist University is shaping the future. I'm your host, Niccole Hall. Join us monthly as we delve into OBU's mission to provide Christian education across all fields, impacting students' lives for generations to come. Remember, it's all of life, all for Jesus. Welcome. This is such an exciting time for our university as we're moving forward with our Shape the Future campaign. In today's podcast, we will be talking a lot about Shawnee Hall renovations and updates, and also talking about some exciting new academic programs that are coming online at OBU in the next few years. I'm very thankful to have with us today Dr. Micah Meek and Dr. Meredith Bailey. Welcome. Just a little bit about our guest. Dr. Micah Meek serves as the Associate Dean of Online, Non-Traditional, and Graduate Education. He is also the Assistant Professor of Christian Ethics at OBU. Dr. Meek is a 2002 graduate of OBU and returned to the university in 2019. Prior to arriving back on Bison Hill, Dr. Meek served as the director of the Doctor of Ministry program at South University Montgomery and has taught courses in ethics, apologetics, biblical studies, and theology for DBU, for Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, Liberty, and others. He holds a PhD in Christian ethics as well as an MDiv and an MA in biblical languages. Dr. Meek's primary research interests are in moral development and the conscience. He also has a love for the local church, having served as an executive pastor at the NAM-sponsored church plant and as a pastor, associate pastor, and youth minister in various churches. Currently, Dr. Meek does pulpit supply and interim pastorates throughout Oklahoma. His wife, Amber, is the administrative assistant for Hobbs School of Theology and Ministry at OBU. They have two boys, Micaiah and Matthias. The Meek family are members of Emmanuel Baptist Church in Shawnee. We're happy to have you here. Dr. Meredith Bailey is an assistant professor of exercise science at OBU and has been a physical therapist for almost a decade. After completing her bachelor's at OBU, she earned her Doctor of Physical Therapy from the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center and completed a residency in orthopedic manual therapy following graduation. Dr. Bailey and her husband own a local outpatient clinic, and her areas of interest include orthopedics, spinal dysfunctions, and functional training. She is also pursuing a PhD in health sciences with an emphasis in healthcare professions education. Dr. Meredith has been on faculty at OBU since January of 2021 and has helped lead the initiative for the new accelerated graduate healthcare programs that we will be learning about today. Dr. Bailey was also this year's winner of the Promising Teacher Award, which was awarded at Convocation Chapel this fall. Welcome, Dr. Meek and Dr. Bailey. It's a pleasure to have you here today to share more about the way OBU is shaping the future through our Shawnee Hall renovations and also these online and graduate academic programs that are starting up. So before we get into more of an academic conversation, I thought I would give our listeners a little bit of an overview of Shawnee Hall. It was opened in 1915. Of course, you guys can testify to the fact that it's been a part of most every OBU student's experience on campus. I think a lot of people would say it ranks up there with Carip and the Walk as far as something that we all know and love well. It was the first structure built on campus and has served pretty much every OBU student. And of course, on April 19th, about a year and a half ago, it suffered a lot of damage from the tornado. Thankfully, I feel like that just kind of opened up an opportunity in God's grace for us to actually move forward and make this such an awesome opportunity for students to now come back on campus and be in a facility which, once renovated, will really enhance their student experience. So to kind of get us going, Dr. Meek, would you be able to give us just a quick Shawnee Hall facility improvement update? I know you get in on a lot of those meetings with those advisory committees, and we would love to just get an update on where the building stands.
Yeah, right now it is, all the demolition has taken place, and so now they're building it back up. Part of that is putting in a new roof structure, and so in order to support that, they've put piers in and other support systems there, and right now they've roughed out all the plumbing for the lower level so that they can pour the concrete slab, which is exciting because then they can continue to build up and finish things out. And they're able to keep some of the iconic fill. There's going to be brick match. Everything's been approved from that. And there's also some other work, sewer lines going in on the quad, making sure that everything's going to run smoothly. Everything's there. So there's fences in various places, and students are kind of navigating that. And they're gracious in it because it's going to be the iconic building that it's always been. And so now we get to see this come to life. You can actually see from the outside a lot of the interior work going on, and it's a shell right now. And then in the next few months, we're going to just get to see layer upon layer built.
Yeah. So exciting. So I've heard that they're hoping to open up the fall of 2025. Is that correct? I mean, if everything goes as planned.
Yeah, that is still the goal. Exciting. And it's an ambitious goal, but I think it's one they can attain. If you look at the progress they've made over the past few weeks, we're very hopeful for that and excited to welcome students on next year, hopefully in that building.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I have a daughter who's hoping to come to OBU as a freshman. And so I'm like, I hope you get to be in Shawnee Hall. I sat there. So, well, we are so happy to have you all here today. I know Shawnee Hall will also house the McCabe Family School of Education, the Division of Behavioral and Social Sciences, the Marriage and Family Therapy Program, as well as some graduate-level health science laboratory spaces. And we might get into that a little bit later. I'm really excited to hear more about it. I know, there are so many demands right now on the community and just in general with the healthcare system. And I was thinking, Dr. Bailey, I know you are actually a physical therapist right now. I know you still practice, even though you work here at OBU. Could you talk to us a little bit more about that growing demand and even maybe just personally what you've noticed? I mean, I know we need occupational therapists, physical therapists. I mean, what is your experience with the demand?
Yeah, absolutely. Out in the community, locally, regionally, and nationally, we see a gap in the amount of providers that we have for the amount of patients that we see. And so my husband and I were having this conversation a couple of months ago. It is difficult to hire because there aren't enough providers. The programs that are in the state are wonderful, but we aren't graduating enough people to then serve the communities that need them. And so we see, I think, if I'm going to guess at statistics from a way back, that we have between, a 10 to a 20% gap between what we have and what we need for the patients out there, like I said, locally, nationally, and regionally. And so in the fields of PT, OT, speech language pathology, and PA especially, which are those ones that we're looking into launching, or we are launching, we see those gaps. And I am just really excited that OBU is going to work towards filling some of those needs, especially kind of across the country, the way that we're looking to build these programs.
So if you can back up just a little bit. So you guys are noticing these demands as OBU, as a university in a community that probably has a lot of needs, just, even with levels of poverty and all of the rural communities around us. How did OBU kind of get to this point, and what really drove the decisions to launch these programs?
Yeah, so I think, 2 years ago or somewhere around in that range, Dr. Dennis came to us in exercise science. Actually went to all the divisions and said, "What's your big dream?" And I remember Dr. Hogan and Dr. Jeff Hogan is one of my colleagues. We sat down and we were like, well, we want a PT program. That would be the dream. We have both worked in clinical practice for a number of years and know that there are those gaps in providers, and we know the unique type of education that OBU can provide. And so we said, okay, well, what's feasible? What can really be done in that area at OBU with our scale and those types of things. And so I had done my residency that you mentioned earlier was with a kind of an online group, and I knew that they maybe partnered with universities. And so we made some calls, and it was one of those things that just started rolling. And I was really excited by the support that OBU's administration had for these healthcare programs. And I kind of joked that I really was only talking about a physical therapy program. And then when we started looking at the statistics for all of these professions, it was absolutely evident that there was need for all of them. And so it grew, which is a huge blessing. But now we're kind of on the cusp of something really exciting just from what was a small idea originally a couple of years ago in a random kind of meeting, which is great.
I love that at a smaller university, you have leadership that supports, faculty and staff having these ideas that they can bring to the table. I don't know that happens. I mean, maybe it does in larger schools, but I do really love that. I know, Dr. Meek, you probably have a lot of experience on what's going to carry us forward with this. But I was just curious, what are the programs, first of all, in addition to the physical therapy program that you're looking to launch? And then just, if you could just tell us how things stand now, like what are the steps toward implementing these programs? Give us maybe an overview of what we can foresee happening in the next few years.
Absolutely. There's so much going on with these. First of all, it's every day there's something new, meetings taking place, trying to develop these programs. So the first one that's going to launch is the doctorate in occupational therapy, and that's set for January 26, which means this coming January, February, we're opening up applications for it, which is exciting to see. The next one will be speech language pathology, which will be that August. And then after that is our physician associate program in the following January. And then the last one will be our doctorate in physical therapy. And so we have all of these kind of slotted every 6 months to launch, which means we're working actively on each one of them, preparing for it. Where we stand right now is we've hired the program directors for all 4 of those. So 3 of them are already working. They've started this year. The PT program director will start next year. And we've hired faculty. We have roughly 10 faculty right now on board or about to start for these programs. And they are actively working on accreditation and curriculum. And so we've been voting on what the courses are going to look like, getting those approved, going through the right processes with our regional accreditor and then with the programmatic accreditors. So we've been working on that pretty much nonstop. That's behind the scenes going on. We're doing things right now. Today I submitted proposals for what tuition's going to be because we have to start accepting students soon. And each one of these programs is really distinct in the field. So we think they're valuable not just because there's a need for practitioners in these, but because we can offer them from a faith perspective. So they'll have a Christian worldview behind them, which we believe that's a better education because it gives us a fuller picture. It shows us the motivation. Why do we want to provide healthcare to people? Because people matter. They matter to God and they should matter to us. And how do we treat people in that healthcare industry? We treat them with respect and honor and those types of things. And I think the Christian worldview provides that. And so we're doing it from helping out in that way, but these are also going to be a little bit more accessible to students because they're going to be a hybrid modality, which means the students can be anywhere in the world and take classes. Generally, it's going to be in the United States. They're going to be close by. They can take our classes, and then they're going to come in and do week-long intensives or 5 days to 10 days. It depends on the program. They're going to come here and use Shawnee Hall that we talked about, use that space for their lab immersions where they get the hands-on experience. We'll have all the faculty here in person for that time, and they'll really get those skills needed, but then they can go back to their homes. So they're not uprooting their families and trying to get here. It's just short periods of time. And then they're also accelerated and means they can go through these year round and get through them quicker, still meeting all of the standards, everything that's required for that profession. But by being accelerated, it means less time that they're focused on full-time school and instead get on the field quicker.
To meet and those community needs.
Those community needs, start earning income, those kinds of things. So we think it's really a great fit for the student need as well as for the community.
So can you talk a little bit more about the faith-based piece? I know like what you're talking about is, of course, we have this opportunity to have these professors who we know at OBU are called to do this, to impact the community. So when we hear faith-based, I mean, you all have an opportunity, I guess what you're saying is to create the content too. So our professors will be teaching the classes, creating the content. I mean, they're doing all of that. It's not
absolutely
outsourced or anything.
No, there are faculty. We're hiring around 10 faculty for each program who, when we're hiring them and they're coming on campus, they're getting asked those questions. What is your faith journey? What does it look like to integrate faith and learning in your discipline? And then we're encouraging them to go beyond, almost give them permission, because it's an awkward feeling at times, especially if you're coming from a public university. What does it mean to talk about your faith where you feel like you can't share those things? And we're saying, we want you to, we expect it, because it's better if you do. It shows your heart and your care for students, but also why we care about what we're doing to begin with. And so, it's going to be in every one of the classes. It's not just an add-on. One of the things we like to say, it's not just you're opening with prayer before class, but you're actually showing. You can point to God and the intricacies of the body. You can point to professionalism and ethics and why you do those things. by your faith. And so it's everywhere. Doesn't mean that all the students are going to be Christians, right? It's just like OBU and our traditional campus, where we acknowledge that from the instructional standpoint, we're going to provide a faith-integrated education. But the student may reject that, but we think it's a better education for them to know about it. But all these courses are going to be where our faculty, they're working on the content of the courses. They can take from accreditation standards. There's general things that they have to do, and from some partners that can help build up those courses and make them really well done on the online components. But then our faculty get to touch each one of those and really guide those courses and what they're going to meet the standard of OBU.
Do you foresee the programs attracting different types of students? I know we've talked about your traditional, and how does that affect the traditional student as well? I know the non-traditional students you've said would be kind of from all over the nation, and they're able to take these online. But how do you see this impacting our traditional students that are on campus? Will they be more easily able to get into some of these programs, or how does that work?
I'm hoping that they're excited about the option of graduate healthcare programs at OBU. And to be fair, we're already seeing that. So I teach our introduction exercise science class, and I had all of our current program directors who are hired at this point kind of speak to my students. And I sent them a brief email last week. I was grading all the final reflections, and almost every student who wants to pursue a graduate program had listed OBU as their top choice after hearing from our program directors. And it made me excited that our students are excited about these programs, because people are working hard to bring them to fruition. And so I think that it'll increase the desire of students to go on and get another level of education. But I also think that it's another pathway for us to garner more undergraduate students, especially in areas science, exercise science, special education, communications, all sorts of different areas. We'll probably see growth in areas, which means that we can provide more opportunities for our undergrads that are hoping to move to these pathways. So I really think that it will be positive improvements and positive outcomes for our undergrads, our traditional undergrads that we see with these programs as well.
And those students will really have a leg up because they're going to know their faculty. We're going to make sure that what we're doing in the undergrad level is preparing them for the graduate. It already does that. They're already working with other institutions, but now you get much more intimate connection
to feed right into that.
To feed in and have a clear pipeline in. We have all the admissions processes are still trying to be figured out of what does it look like for an OBU student, of preferred admissions or early admissions, and those will be defined shortly. But we want to make sure that OBU students choose OBU, not just for undergrad, but for continuing on into these grad programs.
I think it's so exciting. I mean, you don't have to do OBU and then go to, OU or OSU or somewhere else. Yeah. You can just do it all there. And really, we already kind of have that reputation. I mean, I've heard so many great things. I know 100% of our pre-med students are accepted into medical school already, so you've just got these cream of the crop students that are now feeding into even better, postgraduate programs.
You think about your programs, the students that you have, which a large number of those are PT and OT track, and you can bring in guest speakers and you can talk about those, but now you don't have to just bring in people. You can actually take a class and watch and meet people who are in the DPT program or OTD program, and even sit in on any sessions or be a part of that learning while you're an undergrad to prepare you and really get them ready for what they're going into, what their field is going to be.
Right. So do you think that these new programs too will impact these rural communities and just the underserved? I mean, I know this area is a hard area. How do you see these programs really impacting the communities around us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we are going to see some real benefits from this being a hybrid program. So one of the things that I'm most excited about is something that Micah mentioned earlier, is that we don't have to uproot people from where they are. We see a lot of, larger metropolitan areas still have some provider gaps, right? Oklahoma City, Dallas, those types they still have provider gaps. But we see a lot of health disparities and a lack of access to rehabilitation services and physicians and things like that in rural communities because they just don't have people that want to move there, or they're like, oh, well, my school took me somewhere else, and then that's where I got a job because that's where my residency was, or that's where my opportunities were. And so the fact that we can keep people in their home communities and ideally find them clinical placements and fieldwork placements during graduate school in those communities really means that we hope that they will start working in those communities and then serve those people that they love. And so I'm really excited for the chance at different clinical opportunities, clinical placement opportunities for our students, more varied opportunities. That could include the mission field. That could include, domestic missions or abroad. I think that all of that is an interesting opportunity that OBU has. And then this hybrid program really just unlocks a lot of rural access to healthcare that isn't typically found in a brick and mortar program, because all of your opportunities are typically near you, which makes sense because you've moved there. And so I think that'll be a huge benefit.
Which is one of the things that we're working on, which is exciting, of the clinical placements. Like, we're getting those almost weekly contracts to sign throughout the nation. So we have a support team, a partner that's working on these placements. And so we're trying to find placements not in Shawnee, Oklahoma. While they're here for lab immersions, they're going to connect with local partners. But this is national, so they're going to go everywhere. So we're signing contracts with places on the East Coast and central U.S. and on the West Coast, trying to make sure that whenever they get here, there's a place for them where they can stay in their community. And in addition to that, we're trying to think also about Oklahoma, right? We're going to attract some Oklahoma people, and what can we do to serve this state? And we know that for Oklahoma, one of the biggest healthcare providers are the tribal systems. And so we're looking at how can we partner with Native American tribes to get students from those populations, but also send our students out to their regional hospitals or clinics and be a good partner with them as well.
I love this. I mean, it fits right into the all of life, all for Jesus, because you're actually, again, you're bringing students into these programs, preparing them for practical jobs, and they're going to be meeting needs in the community, and they're going to be all over the country. So it sounds awesome. We're going to back up a little bit and focus in on Shawnee Hall and kind of pull this all together a little bit. But so when these students come for their week or whatever it is on campus, they will be utilizing some of that space in Shawnee Hall. We visited a little bit about this prior to the podcast, but would it be, could you talk a little bit about that? They'll be in Shawnee Hall. This facility improvement will really improve their experience.
It's going to be a huge benefit to them. So initially, when we were considering launching these programs, that was the big unknown. Where do we put these students? Because they're going to come here a week at a time, and each one of these 4 programs are coming multiple times throughout the year. And so really, it's around 48 weeks of the year we may be using a space once these are all launched. So where do we put these students? It's not going to harm our current traditional students, but still is on Shawnee's campus. So they feel like they're part of OBU because they are. And Shawnee Hall is that perfect space. And so with the renovation, the second floor is going to be, there's going to be a large multi-use space that will be used for other events on campus. It'll be functional as kind of a banquet hall. But when they're here, it'll be focused really on these health science programs. It'll have the ability there's a storage closet nearby, and so it'll be full of all their equipment. You're talking ultrasound machines, beds, everything that you'd find in any of the clinics or hospitals, because we're talking various disciplines here, that they can pull out, they can set up in this multi-use space, and we can have our students there really immersed in whatever they're doing. And we can teach large groups. They'll have the technology to have everything, cameras that are above them, showing what you're doing in demonstrations and broadcast on projectors so that students everywhere can see exactly what they need to do for manipulations and things like that. It's going to have everything they need in that space for those lab immersions. And then we're also going to be with Shawnee Hall right next to Stavros Hall, which is our traditional nursing building. Now they're going to have access to those nursing facilities and being able to collaborate with our nursing students, which is one of the great things about these programs. When you're out in the industry, you're working not in isolation. You're working with allied health providers. And so now they're going to be able to do that. And Stavros Hall, we know, has an amazing high fidelity lab that they'll be able to use. There's some other lab facilities there that we're already planning on how can they go into a clinical setting and work in that space. And they're right next to each other, and so they'll be able to go back and forth.
This is awesome. Okay, so also on Shawnee Hall, I mean, it's just phenomenal to think about it. You're right. They can kind of create and simulate so many different situations with just the facilities alone even. Okay, so back to Shawnee Hall a little bit. You wanted to talk to me a little bit about admissions. I think I mentioned that before. Do you know much about what that will look like? I've heard that will also be housed in the Shawnee Hall building.
Right now, we know that that's in Thurman Hall, and that's being shut down because that's going to be our engineering building. And so now admissions is moving over to Shawnee Hall, and it's going to be on the second level, so if you're coming in from the Oval, you walk up the steps, which is like a grand entrance. It really makes you feel like you're a college student, right? Which is what you want to see. And right when you walk in the door, there's going to be an admission space. It's going to be more of an open concept and just has the counselors there, some meeting spaces where they can meet with families or individuals. And it's right there in the heart of activity for the campus, which is what you want. You want students, prospective students, to be able to see what college is really like. And so it's going to be in this space that has classrooms upstairs. It has the lab space on the same level. And there's going to be a lot of activity in that space. It's going to be dedicated, so it's a kind of a wow experience for admissions when you walk in the door. But at the same time, you get to look around and see real students doing real studies in this multi-use space.
Well, we are so thankful that you all were here today, and we'll definitely be praying for students, for facility improvements, for all of these programs, for the new professors coming online. I think that that's so exciting. I know that, Shawnee Hall is just one of our facilities that we are working on to improve on campus. And of course, we're focused on these academic investments and then just improving the overall experience for students on campus. So I know for our listeners, if you have any questions about how to give or support our facility improvement project through Shawnee Hall, you are more than welcome to contact us through the advancement office. If you have any questions about academic programs that we've discussed today, please contact Dr. Meek or Dr. Bailey. We are just super excited about shaping the future with all of these things going on at Oklahoma Baptist University. We're so thankful that you all are here today. So in 2025, we'll be launching, we'll be opening up Shawnee Hall, and then soon after we'll be launching a lot of your graduate programs, which is so exciting. So is there a place online where they can get more information about these programs?
Sure. If they go to OBU's website, there's a graduate and online option, and it will have some information about the programs. And we're updating that pretty frequently as we reach those accreditation milestones and we begin to prepare to open applications for OT.
Awesome. Well, we are so thankful to have you here today. And I know you all can plan on coming back in the fall of 2025 for a grand opening for Shawnee Hall. And we're excited. We're shaping the future here at Oklahoma Baptist University. Thank you for joining us on the All of Life podcast. Stay connected by following us on social media and subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. To support OBU's Shape the Future campaign, visit okbu.edu/shapethefuture. Together, we are future shapers. See you next time.